Hey Internet, it's me. Now, today I'm going to talk about a video game, which I know I haven't done in a long time. And actually, before I get too into the whole talking and the words thing, I'm just going to jump into this game. So, let me do that, and then we'll talk about stuff. Okay, so I guess to start, I should say that this game is Gubble. I am playing the PlayStation version, currently, but when I was a kid, I originally played this game on PC. And I know you wouldn't know it because I don't think many people have heard of the name Gubble before, but this game got franchised. There is a sequel, Gubble 2. There's also a kart racer. There was a couple HD remakes or 3D remasters or whatever you want to call them. There was an Infinite Runner and various other mobile apps made. Gubble is a thing. So, right off the bat, that's pretty crazy, and you'll see why, because the game itself is simplistic, but I don't know, it's not what you'd think would spawn a franchise. And actually, before I go any further, I want to say the music in this game, top tier. I played this recently, which is partially what made me want to talk about it on here, and when I did, just instant nostalgia in my brain, remembering all this music. So yeah, it's really cool just hearing everything again. The soundtrack here is just really memorable and unique and really cool. Now the game itself is pretty simple. You are an alien, and evil robot machine things have taken over your planet. Your job is to disassemble all of their nonsense and save your planet. And you can see these enemies will come at you. When they do, you can do this. You can fly, and then you go right over all the enemies, and they don't hurt you. However, when you do that, you lose whatever deconstruction implement that you had. So, you can't do both. You can't avoid enemies and disassemble things at the same time. So you have to kind of prioritize what you're going to do. Now down in the bottom right corner, there's that green bar. Oh, I should have went and got the bonus first. Good job, dummy. That green bar is your health. If that gets too low, you kind of die. So try not to do that. And obviously, as the game goes on, all the levels are going to get harder. The level will be more complex. There will be different types of enemies. Like you saw those little gears, they just go left and right or up and down in just a basic pattern. Whereas these blue guys, when they see you, can run at you. I believe they can change direction as well. But yeah, I know it seems straightforward, but for some reason it's one of those ones that's just, I don't know, it sticks with you and you want to keep playing, which is what I'm going to do. But I also want to talk about, on the cover of this game, not the one I showed you for the PlayStation, but on the PC, I'll put a screenshot somewhere up here. It makes the claim that this is a non-violent video game. And I want to talk about that because I don't know that there are many non-violent video games. I know that this definitely isn't one because, as you saw when that red guy ran into me, enemies will attack you. They will come after you. And when it hit me, I made a noise of anger, frustration, or pain, or whatever, because my character did not want to be hit. So, you could tell he was not happy that happened. He was definitely, the victim of some sort of violence. So I don't know if I would call this a non-violent video game. But yeah, so that got me thinking, okay, well this isn't one, but what would be a non-violent video game? And I'm kind of having trouble coming up with some. Right off the bat, obviously, fighting games, shooting games, beat 'em ups, those are all just off the table. Those are all going to be violent. There's nothing there. And then I started thinking, well, maybe RPGs and Metroidvanias are probably off the table too then, because those are almost always about, hurting things, killing things, whatever. But that got me thinking, there's actually an RPG that I really like called Final Lap Twin for the TurboGrafx. And in it, it's an old school 8-bit RPG like a Dragon Warrior, but you're not trying to kill people or save the world. You're you're trying to win races. When you go around and you get new equipment, you're not getting new equipment for you. You're getting new parts for your car so that you can do better in races. And I don't think that's violent at all. I think as you go through, like, you're just doing the races. I don't think there's any point where you're actually fighting anyone or getting hurt. Even when you die in the game, you basically just come back to life at where you started, where you're, I want to say it's your uncle. You start at like his garage or pit shop or whatever. So I don't think that one's violent. And then that led me to think, okay, well, what about racing games? Racing games in general probably aren't very violent, except there's a bunch that are. So like Road Blasters, that's definitely violent. You're shooting the other cars. Anything like, you know, a Burnout or Full Auto or Road Rash, those are all going to be violent. So none of those are really going to count. But you do have, like, you know, your Gran Turismos and your Jet Motos and Extreme G and those kinds of things where you're just racing. You're just going around in your vehicle trying to be faster than the other vehicles. So I think those count. So we have a few more for the non-violent list. Yay. And then I'm like, okay, well, what about if we did sports? And then I realized pretty quickly, no. Pretty much every sport is violent. Like, baseball is probably safe, but all the other ones, like football, soccer, even basketball, hockey, those are all violent. You know, you're always tripping people or checking people or just straight up punching people in the face or tackling someone. Like, there's a lot of violence in sports. So, not sports. And then, you know, action adventure, those are all going to be out for the same reason that, like, a lot of the fighting games are. There's a lot of violence in those. But what about maybe, like, puzzle platformers? Because, like, that's what this is. This is a puzzle platformer. In here, you know, you're calling it platformer, I guess, is a little weird, but it's basically a puzzle platformer. I'm trying to think of other ones. A lot of those... Even now that I'm saying it, I'm not sure many puzzle platformers are safe either. Like a Boulder Dash, Dig Dug, Load Runner, you know, they're all... You're not necessarily committing violence, but at the same time, you're trying to avoid enemies and obstacles that will kill you if you get hit by them. So, I guess that's still violent. This is the first level, by the way, where you have 2 items. So, as I showed you, when you fly... to avoid enemies, you also come off your tool, whatever that tool is. And in this instance, you'll have to do that halfway through the level so that you can switch to the other tool and continue deconstructing things. So, just want to point that out. In case you're actually paying attention to the gameplay and you're like, oh wait, this is different. So where were we? Yeah. Back on the topic of sports, I'm going to have a little... My brain's in a weird place. A, because I'm trying to focus on the game and also talk, but B, because, I don't know, I'm basically just ADHD up in there, so I'm going to go on tangents. Back to the sports thing, while they aren't non-violent, I thought about, like, you know, the MMA and the boxing and the wrestling type games, and why don't we have a game like that starring characters from other fighting franchises? Like... How cool would it be to have a wrestling game full of all of the, like, different fighters, you know? Everyone from, like, Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and even going all the way back to, like, Primal Rage and Clay Fighter, Bio Freaks. Like, you know, that could be really fun. I think we need that game. I think it's a shame that we don't have it, and we should have it. So, yeah, I just want to point that out. Like, I think it would be super fun to see, like, Orchid from Killer Instinct and Jade from Mortal Kombat just tag-teaming each other. And that's not just in, like, my sex dreams. Like, just in general in a video game. That would be really fun. But also the other thing. Did not need to go faster. This is the opposite of Jurassic Park. But yeah. Going back to the whole search for non-violent games that we're having now, I guess, because I can only say so much about this game that I'm playing. Puzzle platformers probably out. Jesus Christ, I am doing awful. But what about puzzle games in general? I think that's where the winners are going to be. Because you've got like your Tetris. You've got No, actually, I don't think Dr. Mario would count because you are killing the viruses, and they do like a little dance of like frustration, anger, pain, whatever, right before you kill them with the pills. Like they're hurt and then they blink out of existence. So, depending on how you want to interpret the word, you could call that violent. So no to Dr. Mario. But you know, we've got. I'm trying to think now of puzzle games reply, but all the ones coming to mind, like all my favorite ones, no. You've got like Adventures of Lolo, but the enemies will kill you if you don't egg or kill them first, so no. Okay, so maybe you've got like I mentioned Tetris, but there's also like Puzzle League, that one's safe. Anything that's just about like little blocks, so like a Luminous or Hexic, those ones are going to be safe. Anything that's like a virtual card game or like a virtual jigsaw puzzle, those are all fine. A lot of board games are probably okay. Maybe not chess all the time. I mean, regular chess is probably okay, but like battle chess, that's going to be a no. Man, this really is hard. I really am struggling to think of more non-violent video games. Like, I don't think there's any one genre that you can just definitively say, yes, this genre is safe. That's what I think I'm realizing now. But even just individual games, there's really not a lot. You know, you'd think like sandbox and simulation games would maybe be safe. Because the whole reason those started was the guy that did Raid on Bungling Bay. Can't believe his name is escaping me now because he's an absolute icon in game development. But he did that game, and then the whole reason he changed course in his field is that he decided, hey, I want to make something that's about creation, not destruction. So he went on to do things like, you know, SimCity and The Sims and Roller Coaster Tycoon, and I might be mixing up two different developers here, but like he went on to do things that weren't violent. And so why? Okay. Like those games exist for that very reason. Like he wanted to do that stuff. He didn't think games should always just be violent. But those games, I don't think they count either. Because he, like I said, he did, you know, I don't know if he did them. I'm like, again, I might be thinking of another developer, but there are games like Roller Toaster, yes. That is my favorite game. Roller Coaster Tycoon and SimCity and The Sims and just all these things. But they're violent too. Like in The Sims, even if you don't actively do it, your characters can get hurt and die. Like that's absolutely a thing that can happen. Same for SimCity. You know, natural disasters can happen and they tear right through, you know, your residential areas. So you don't see people dying. It's heavily implied that people did. I think your population goes down and all the houses get destroyed. So there's definitely death and destruction going on. I would call that violent. Yeah, this game is definitely violent. Those people just shot me with missiles. So just want to put that out there. This is not one of the non-violent games. But yeah, so no Sims, no SimCity, Roller Coaster Tycoon. I'm sure we all know that if your thing is wrong and the train comes off the track, people get launched across the map and die. So that's definitely violent. So yeah, I don't know about the whole non-violent game thing. Granted, I'm partially distracted, but I think I've come up with maybe 5 or 6 so far. Like, there's not a lot. I don't think that's a thing. I think that's the moral of the story here is, while there are a few that could advertise being non-violent video games, I don't know that that's much of a thing. Like, just looking at my wall here, you know, granted, a lot of my games are gonna be RPGs or action adventure because those are the things I like most, but I don't know. Even the stuff that's not that, even the ones that are kid friendly, you know, like I've got Scooby-Doo, Scalar, there's Looney Tunes and the Lego games, like those all have some sort of violence to them. You know, you're still being attacked or attacking other things. You can still be destroyed. Even going back to early arcade titles, you know, things like Pac-Man, Centipede, Millipede, Space Invaders, Defender, there's violence in all of those. You're trying to kill something or attack something or defend against something violent. Like, I don't know, I think violence is an inherent part of video games. I don't think it necessarily has to be. Like, I don't think it's fair to say that, oh, well, video games only exist to, you know, show or promote violence. Like, I don't think that's true. I don't want to sound like one of those, you know, Christian moms from the 80s, like, oh, violent video games ruining America. Like, that's not a thing. I think you can have video games without violence. Although maybe not from everything we've just talked about. And by we, I mean I, because this is a one-sided thing. I'm not trying to be all parasocial here. But, yeah, I don't know. I wonder what it is that makes it so prevalent in games. Like, is it just a better game mechanic to have the violence than not? Because, like I said, you know, some racing games, maybe not the arcade-style racers, but the ones that are more racing simulator style, those are all non-violent. They're perfectly fine. You know, you're still trying to come ahead of someone in a race. You're still trying to unlock and drive better cars, do time trials against yourself. Like, there's still a progression map and a bit of competition without the violence. So I definitely think that's possible. The same for a lot of like puzzle games. You know, in Tetris, you want to get a high score, whether it's by yourself or with other players. You know, the goal is get the most lines and do the most stuff. So, again, non-violence can exist. I'm trying to think now, if I had to come up with a concept for a non-violent video game, and I don't know why I've decided to put myself in the spot like this. Like, you're all just going to watch me have absolute brain rot now, because, like, I want to say I would probably go the board or card game route too, and just make up, like, a new board game or card game that could be played without the aspects of violence, but still had some sort of competition to it. Or maybe you don't need the competition. Maybe you work toward, like, a goal. Maybe it's one where it could be single player or multiplayer, like Escape from Dark Castle is a board game I very much enjoy. And you can play it solo or with other people. And the whole thing is, it's a co-op game. You're not competing against each other. You're not trying to kill each other or beat each other. You all have the shared similar goal of trying to escape this castle that you're trapped in without dying. And so you work together to defeat, you know, the various enemies or entities that are in the castle. And if you all work together and you achieve your shared goal of actually escaping, you win. If any of you, well, not if any of you dies. If all of you die, you lose. So as I'm saying it, obviously, you couldn't use that specific board game because you're trying to kill enemies and not die. Violence. But, I don't know. Like, there's something there. Like, there are some board games and card games that are non-violent. And those can be done, those can be adapted to make a non-violent video game. Like, a bunch of them have. So, what would be just a new concept that would be non-violent? Maybe some sort of simulator game? Like, you know, there's all, like, the roller coaster tycoons and the mall tycoons and airport tycoon. So one of those type of tycoon management games. I think that's the key here. I think one of those, I could do it. You just have to be, you know, a tycoon or a manager of something that's not inherently violent by nature. I say that knowing that Roller Coaster Tycoon is violent, and theme parks are not violent in nature. They're thrilling, but they're not supposed to be violent. So what could be both non-violent but also interesting? Because that's the thing. There are some simulator games out there, like I'm sure we've all seen that they're geared toward like reaction content. They're made to be, streamed on Twitch or reacted to by a YouTuber. They're definitely not something that you would play and enjoy on your own because they don't seem to be that fun standalone. Like YouTuber Simulator, that's a stupid concept. That exists to appeal to YouTubers and streamers. Like, that's the whole reason that exists. So that definitely not. That's not... I wouldn't want to do something like that. So I would have to come up with a career or something that could be fun and interesting, but also non-violent. Like, I like walking outside in nature a lot. I bring my dog out in the woods all the time. I'm a very outdoorsy country boy kind of person, despite my interest in tech and video games and all of that. So maybe like I don't know, maybe there's something there. Maybe like a park ranger simulator where you have to go and maintain trails, and you have to take care of like out of control overgrowth and those kinds of things. Would that be fun? How can I make it fun? Because I was thinking like, oh, if there's wildlife you have to keep under control, but then you're going to get into violence because, if there's wolves and bears and those kinds of things, then you can be attacked and mauled by them, and now we're back to the same problem. So how do you do that? Okay, so let's assume this is the game we're making now. We're on this adventure. We're doing a park ranger simulator or nature trail simulator, whatever we want to call it. You're in these various areas. You want to clear trails. You want to make sure that the place stays interesting and usable by your park patrons. Bad timing on that there. So like you can clear overgrowth. You can walk the trails yourself to kind of wear them in better. Because if you walk the same trail over and over, it just becomes dirt. And it's not overgrown. Maybe you have to clean up litter or maintain things like that to keep the appeal up. And then maybe we do something with like trespassers. Maybe you have to put up like a no trespassing sign to keep certain types of people out. And if you don't hang these signs, then, teenagers and vandals will come in. I don't know why I'm necessarily equating teenagers and vandals, but stereotypes are fun. So yeah, maybe you have to do something like that. Maybe you have to put up like other signs or pylons or something to keep people with like vehicles out of there. Because otherwise maybe someone will come through in like a pickup truck or a four-wheeler or a dirt bike or something and try to like go mudding on your trail in your woods. Like as you clear the trails and it becomes more established, it also becomes more appealing. So then you have to like maintain the types of people that are there. So that could be something. There's still like not a competitive edge, but there's a progression there. Like, as you're doing good, that also gives you more obstacles that you then have to deal with. Like before, when you start and it's just untouched, woodland and not pastures, but just nature, meadows and whatnot, then it's not as appealing to people. People don't care as much. But once you start to do that, and make it more appealing for folks to be there, you also have to deal with what happens because more folks are there. So yeah, I think that's a route we could go. Okay, so I think I have the bare bones of a non-violent game. I don't know why I'm creating this hypothetical game. I'm not going to develop it. I am a programmer, but not that kind. But yeah, I think that's our winner. I think if we have, you're like a park ranger, what we want to call the game, I still don't know yet. Nature Trail Simulator, Park Ranger Simulator, Jackass in the Woods, whatever. There are options. But yeah, so you walk around, you maintain trails, you clear trails, you make new trails, and that's your main goal, is just make and maintain trails. You know, maybe there's like a time where you have to have X miles of trail or kilometers of trail. It would probably be kilometers, because games always seem to be measured in, you know, British units instead of freedom units. So yeah, maybe that's the route we go. And then, like I said, so we've got the progression of, you know, as you do better and your trails are more appealing, that also means you have to, you know, make them more secure. Make sure people aren't destroying them. Yeah. But then what else? Like, even that, it doesn't feel like enough. There still needs to be more. So maybe we go the nature route, but it's not like big mammals, but you can have, like, you know, birds and rodents and stuff like that. You know, there's squirrels, chipmunks, those kinds of things. And maybe there's like an extra, like a collectathon aspect to it, to where each area you create your trail, there's different types of wildlife that live there. You know, maybe there's squirrels or chipmunks, maybe there's flying squirrels, there's mink, there's, you know, cool stuff like that. And so as you go about your way, oh yeah, that's the route we take. Okay, so I got this. I'm very much on a tangent. I don't think I'm talking about Gubble anymore, by the way. That's over. You can just see Gubble in the background and you know what it is. Wow, I'm just dying today. Okay, so that's the route we take. Because you don't want someone to play the game by just turning every square inch of whatever area into trail. Like, you don't just want all of your woods or whatever it is to be a giant mud pit. So maybe they have to create the trail while also maintaining a certain level of wildlife habitants. Maybe they have to, you know, like, have 4 kilometers of trail, but also have X amount of species of birds or rodents there. So you can't just completely scare away the wildlife by turning the whole thing into trail. Yeah, I like that angle. I think that's the way we go with this. And then, yeah, like I said, we can do a collectathon thing, too, to where not only do they have to have these different creatures, but maybe they have to, like, find them. Maybe as you're walking through as the park ranger, it becomes your goal to, like, spot these critters. So maybe it's not just a matter of having them, maybe it's a matter of first finding them in the area. Like, maybe you have, you know, your binoculars or whatever, you spot the critters, and once you determine that they're there, then you're like, okay, now that I have these here, I have to maintain these. Or maybe I have to grow this population, you know? Maybe I saw 2 woodpeckers, and my goal is to have 10 in these set of woods. And so you figure out what areas they frequent the most, and then you keep the trails going around those areas, so that you're not disturbing, you know, the specific trees and the specific little bit that they prefer. And so now there you go. You're maintaining your trails, because you still want to have a walkable trail. Like, that's the overall goal. That's, you know, goal number 1. But then you're also keeping people off the trails, your vandals and whatnot. Oh, and that ties in too, because then the vandals, you know, if you have them, like if people are coming in with like 4-wheelers and dirt bikes and stuff, which happens in the woods that I frequent actually, they aren't just going to stick to the trail. They're going to tear up the whole area. And so you need to keep them out so that they don't destroy everything. Because if they do, you're not going to have animals because now their habitat's been disturbed. So that's the route you go. Yeah, you have to go and like I said, you want to keep them out so that they don't just completely destroy all the animal places. Sorry, the levels are getting tricky now, so talking and playing is getting harder. Yeah, the more I'm talking about it, the more I would actually play this game. Like, that would actually, I could definitely see this being a fun game that would appeal to people. And then I think, like, in further levels, you know, you can make it trickier. Like, maybe you introduce water. You have a stream or a pond or a swamp or something in there, and maybe, while also maintaining, you know, the health of your trail and the wildlife in the area and keeping out the bad people, you also, you know, you still want to encourage new people to come through the trails. So You have to, like, still make it presentable and appealing. You know, there still has to be something to draw folks in. So maybe you have to put, like, little education boards and be like, hey, these types of animals are found here, or this fallen log encourages this type of mushroom growth, or whatever the case is. You could do, like, the education component. That could definitely be something. But then also, like I said, maybe if you have water health, then there's different fish or something that can be there. You know, if you have streams and ponds and something, that, okay, now I have to not just maintain the trail, but I have to keep vandals out so that they don't litter and they don't screw up this water. Because if they do, then the newts and frogs and fish that I have here will all die. And then that becomes an objective too. I will mention Gubble again real quick. The trick here is the timing. You have to be able to time it to where you jump off your tool right before you get hit. The problem is, but while you're actively unscrewing or unfastening something, you can't do it. So you have to time it to where it's in between. Okay, so what is the overall end game? Like, how do you... Well, I guess in a game like that, I guess you wouldn't. I guess each level just gets more and more complicated, and eventually, when you beat the last one and you've completed all the objectives, then you're the winner. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. It could be just like, you know, like an insane aquarium, roller coaster tycoon, whatever. And just like those games, you could have, you know, just a, like a sandbox mode, where there is no objectives. You just have, like, the biggest set of woods, or maybe the smallest. You know, you'll have varying sizes of levels, different types of woods, or parklands. You know, maybe there's one there's not wooded, it's not trees, maybe there's just flowers, and you have flower gardens you have to maintain. But you have your different levels, and you can just freely create how you want and just grow it over time. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So I think that's our video. I think you've seen Gubble. You understand what it is. I know I didn't talk about it a lot because that's how these videos tend to go. Just stream of consciousness. Clearly, this one was not scripted. But Gubble is a fun game. It's a very simplistic thing. You know, you just go around and unfasten stuff without being killed by enemies. It's basic, but it's fun. It's addicting. And I recommend it. I actually, like I said, I used to play this as a kid. Did I say that? I don't even know. I used to play it in kid. Wow. Don't put that on YouTube. I used to play this as a kid while in high school at my friend's house. Because he had a PC with a bunch of games on it. And it was fun. Playing it now, still fun. Big fan. So yeah, that's Gubble. As to the other topics, non-violent video games, which Gubble claims to be. Again, not on here, on the screenshot that I'm showing somewhere here on the screen. Gubble is not non-violent, but there are non-violent video games. You know, there's some racing games, some puzzle games, at least the one RPG. Baseball games are non-violent. All the other sports probably are. So yeah, there's a few out there. Seaman for Dreamcast. There you go. That one's non-violent. So yeah, non-violence in video games can exist. It's just a matter of coming up with a system of progression, maybe a system of competition, whether against other players or aspects of the game itself. But there has to be a challenge that you overcome. Something that you're acting against that you can best and come out on top to show that you accomplished something. Because I think that's the thing in video games. I think you want to create a feeling of accomplishment. You know, you need to progress forward, and you need to overcome an obstacle, and you need to do something. You need to have, I guess, just accomplish something. So yeah, that's the key. If you can come up with that without violence, then I think you're good. And I think I just did that. I think options definitely exist, because while playing this game in real time, I was able to come up with one. And granted, that's just a situation from my life, so it was easy to come up with because it's something I do every day. Granted, I'm not a park ranger while I'm doing it, but I'm in the woods, I'm walking these trails and naturally maintaining them, and watching them get degraded by people who do come in and they litter, or, you know, they come in with a dirt bike and turn the woods into their own personal motocross track. So yeah, that's something I'm familiar with, so I was able to turn that into a game. But there's other people out there that could similarly gamify things in their life, I'm sure. So, Well, I'm not saying we need more non-violent video games. I think violence in video games is perfectly fine as long as the person playing understands the difference between reality and not reality. Um, I think that's okay. But if people want to go the nonviolent route, like if for whatever reason, maybe it is one of those Christian organizations, Mothers Against Violent Video Games, or whatever the organizations are called, they do exist. Um, I think there's ways they could do it. I think they could easily go through and just find a concept that they can gamify, that they can create challenge and competition and progression around, and just turn that into something with goals, but without violence. Actually, the game I came up with, I think if a Christian group, I say Christian, I'm sure there are other religious groups that do it too, but that's just the one I'm most familiar with because that's the most popular in my area and in the country. But they could even take my concept and tweak it a little bit and just have it be like, maybe you have to maintain the Garden of Eden. Maybe you want to go the wisdom tree route, and the game can't just be non-violent, it has to be explicitly Christian. And maybe you do that. Maybe you are, maybe not God, but maybe you're playing as like one of the angels. And you have to take artistic liberty here. But maybe this angel has been, tasked with maintaining the Garden of Eden. Or no, make Adam do it. You're playing as Adam. You're Adam, or Eve, people can play as either one. And you want to go through and maintain the Garden of Eden. You want to make sure all the animals are happy and all the plants are healthy. But what's the competition? I mean, there's always entropy. Things go bad over time. You have to, maintain all the plants, make sure they're not blocking each other and creating shade where there shouldn't be. You want sunlight to reach all the plants. So you have that aspect of it. There's like the arrangement and the management and a little bit of like puzzle aspect there. You want to make sure the animals don't eat each other. I don't think that works because that would introduce violence. So you don't want to have that. Plus, I think originally humans were told that you can eat the animals, you have dominion over them. So the food chain and carnivores already existed, so that's fine. But we don't want that. That's violence. So we're not going to have that part. The animals are just there. They live peacefully. Maybe you want to root out and chase away snakes. Not in a violent way. They're not going to attack you. They're not going to harm you. You're not going to harm them. Maybe you just, whenever you come across like a snake nest, because they do create nests, maybe you have to root them out some way. I don't know. I think there's something there. I think it could be fleshed out. Like, I already have a solid idea with my Park Ranger game, but I think if Wisdom Tree doesn't exist anymore, and the people that own their games now just own them to reproduce them. They don't own them on like a moral thing. They're not trying to produce more specifically Christian games. But if a company were, I think there's something there. I think you could do like a sandbox simulator, resource management type of thing in the Garden of Eden. And it could be both explicitly Christian and also non-violent. I don't know if non-violence is even their goal, but if it was, I think you could do it. I think you could do it in a way that would still be fun and appealing to non-gamers. That's the important thing. I'm just on this tangent now. We're just going to talk. I'm not even pretending to play Gubble anymore. But I think that's where a lot of Christian games failed, is that they had their Christian aspects, and they had a somewhat solid gameplay idea. The problem is they didn't flesh it out enough to make it a fun video game. Like, if you took the Christian aspect out, because these people were coming at it from a Christian standpoint. They're coming in thinking, hey, I want to put the Bible in a video game. I want this to basically be Sunday school for kids at home playing games. And that's fine, but if you take that out, there's no more Bible in there. There's no more of those aspects. They don't proselytize. It's just a video game. Is it a fun game? Because if the answer is no, then your game fails. I think that's the problem. Like, they had Noah's Ark 3D, I think it's called. Basically, it was Castle Wolfenstein reskinned, and instead of killing Nazis, you're feeding sheep. And instead of a gun, basically you're like throwing, I think it was tomatoes, I don't know, some sort of like food or fruit at them. But the thing is, if you take the Bible aspect out of it and you're just feeding animals, why? Where's the challenge? Where's the progression? Because there's nothing saying, oh, you fed all of them, good job. There's not like a food meter that's going down over time, and so you have to go back and feed the first ones real quick so that they don't get hungry again. Like, there's none of that. They took a shooting game where the goal is to kill things and get to the end of the level, and they reskinned it. But by reskinning it and taking out the killing and the survival aspect, you changed the nature of the gameplay, and now it doesn't make sense as a game. And I think that's where a lot of those games fail. They do that with a lot of the platformers. I mean, there's still fall damage. You can still die in the platformers, but it doesn't make sense because of the new framing, and that's the problem. The one exception would be Spiritual Warfare. Why am I reviewing this now? I actually need to review that for real. That is a game worth reviewing. Did I already? I might have reviewed that game already, now that I'm saying this out loud. I've been doing this for a while. But yeah, that's where that one works, is much like Noah's Ark and all those other games, it's basically a clone. It was, as far as I know, they didn't steal the engine. They created the game on their own, so it's not really fair to call it a clone. But it's Legend of Zelda-like. And I think that's why that game works, because even if you're playing it not at a Christian angle, like even if you're a non-believer and you're not going to believe, you're not going to be converted, you don't care about that aspect, just playing the game, it's a fun game. You know, they did well with it. The controls feel good, the physics work good, the gameplay loop makes sense. There's that overworld exploration, and you have to get like different items, different weapons to progress to new areas. It's a good functional game because someone somewhere along the way was taking gameplay into account. And they're thinking, hey, I know we want to spread our message, but this also should be fun and engaging, message aside. And it is. So you need more games like that. So if someone wanted to take my Park Ranger idea, I guess it's not even that idea anymore. I guess it's different now. But do like a Garden of Eden thing, there's definitely something there. You could do it. You just have to consider the gameplay loop first. Make sure the gameplay's solid. Make sure you have a good goal. Not just a goal of something to accomplish, but also an obstacle, a blocker, a detractor, something to overcome on your way to accomplishing that goal. Because if there's nothing that you have to avoid, there's nothing taking away from you, there's no hardships, and the goal is just make the garden pretty, the only thing you're fighting against is time. And that's fine, you can do that. It's just, it really has to be something special then to be fun. Like, I guess Animal Crossing does that. The only thing you're fighting against in Animal Crossing is time. Yeah. So I guess it's possible. I guess if you do it right, you don't necessarily have to have a detractor. Because, like, in Animal Crossing, you know, if you don't do anything in your island for, like, a month, nothing bad happens. Once the fruits and the veggies all bloom, they just stay bloomed until you harvest them. You get some weeds that'll grow on your island, but they won't destroy anything. You know, your house won't decay and rot. Nothing falls apart. No one gets injured or harmed. So, yeah, that is a game with no actual obstacles aside from time, and they make it work. So, okay, I take it back. I guess time can be the only obstacle in your game, but that has a clear progression. You know, you have to accomplish things to unlock new things. The ability to, you know, like get your ladder and to reshape the island and to have more villagers and to throw certain types of parties or whatever, those are all not necessarily time-gated, but they're locked behind money. You have to, you know, pay Tom Nook certain amounts of money to progress and unlock certain things. So you could do that with the Garden of Eden. Maybe you have to earn a certain amount of favor with God or impress him by doing a certain amount of things to unlock new things. Yeah, there's definitely something there. That could be fleshed out. Someone who cared a little more and knew a little more than I did could make that into a thing. I promise you. There's definitely something there. But yeah, I think I'm at the end of this video. I think I've been doing it the whole time, but I think I'm just rambling for rambling's sake now. But yeah, my main point was to show off that Gubble is a fun game. The problem is there's nothing really to say about Gubble. You can explain it in 30 seconds, and then there you go, that's Gubble. But that's a fun game. But also, I guess someone should make this Park Ranger game that I just came up with, and maybe a Garden of Eden game. And if you do, let me know. I would love to play them. I would also love a creator credit, or I'll do voiceover work for it if you want. If it has voiceovers, I'll do it for free even. Actually, I'm just going to put that out into the universe right now. If anyone is making a video game and wants voiceover work, I will do it for free. I don't care how many lines there are. I don't care what type of game it is or what character it is. If you need voiceover in your game, I will do it for free. I just want my name in the credits of more video games. I say more like it's in the credits of any right now. Actually, it is. But yeah, I want my voice in video games. So if you're making a game and you need voiceover work, I'm your guy. I will do it. Not only that, I have an acting troupe. I am an actor. I work with actors all the time. I can get all the voiceovers for your game. I know enough people. I'll get all your characters acted. So yeah, if you're making a video game and you need voiceover work, DM me, leave a comment. DM me. The hell is this, Twitter? Leave a comment, get a hold of me. I'll make it happen for you. But yeah, that's where this is going to end. Gubble's good. My Park Ranger game, if and when it ever gets created by someone, would also be good. But no one's going to make that unless I do, and I don't know how, so it's never going to exist. But if it did, it'd be good. Think about it. In your head, just the imaginary concept of that game, you're having fun. There you go. You're welcome. But yeah, that's this video. This is the stupidest, most eclectic video I've ever made. Oh my god, I don't even know what the point was. Yeah, there you go. I hope you somehow got enjoyment out of the, Jesus Christ, almost an hour of recording. I'm going to trim that down a bit. This is not going to be an hour-long video, but to let you know right now, we are at 1 hour, 23 minutes. Hold on. 24. Hour, 24 minutes. There you go. I'm going to cut a lot of this. There are going to be edits. Yeah, I hope this was fun. If you want more of whatever the hell this was, I'd say subscribe, but I don't know if I'm going to do more movies or more film. Jesus Christ. More videos like this. This was insane. Clearly. But I will do more videos. I have a lot more stuff planned in the wings. I have other games I want to talk about. Some of them have more to say than Gubble, so I'll actually talk about the game and not whatever I was just talking about for an hour. And there's still some consoles I want to talk about and just go through their libraries and see what they have to offer. So yeah, there's more stuff coming. There will always be more stuff coming. So subscribe if you like it, if you want. And if you don't like it, I guess don't subscribe. Or do. You know what? You should subscribe anyway, and you should hate watch it. You should leave all kinds of comments and just engage with me and tell me how much you didn't like it. Definitely do that. If you hate my videos, if you hate this channel, definitely subscribe. And let me know on every video. Go back to all my old videos. Watch every one, all the way through. And then leave a big comment telling me everything you disliked. Definitely do that. That would be good. For you, not good for me. It would be terrible for me because you hate me and you don't want to do good things for me. But it would be good for you because you would feel good because you let me know how bad I was. So yeah, go do that. Also, I don't know when I became a YouTuber and I asked people to like and subscribe. I hate that that's something that just came out of my mouth. I'm going to end this video because now it's just getting weird. Bye, everyone.